Hey, it's Justin Harvey. Thanks for tuning into the Anesthesia and Pain Management Success podcast. With APM Success, we take a close look at important topics pertaining to business, practice management, personal finance, and careers for anesthesiologists and pain management physicians. We work hard to take your critical questions straight to the experts. Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of APM Success. I'm here with my friend Andrew Guthmiller. Andrew is the founder of Car Concierge, which is a white glove car buying service. And he is one of those experts that I call upon every now and then to try to solve those problems that my clients bump into now and then that I myself am not qualified to solve, but really appreciate being able to get my clients connected to good resources. Andrew is one of those resources. Andrew, thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and for the kind words. I appreciate it.
So it's been a little while, maybe like 100 episodes or so since we last connected. I don't remember exactly how long it's been. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So we are here to take over the car buying process in its entirety so that you don't have to. We'll take care of all the searching, negotiating, and getting you up to speed with the options and opportunities that we're finding that we think are a really good fit for you. Once we've selected a car and we all agree and feel like we've got the right one, I'll make all the arrangements so getting the car is as simple as possible. So help people with trades and financing rates and warranties, whatever is applicable to you in your car buying situation. So
I'm envisioning you in that William Shatner, the negotiator, where he's got the briefcase and he's, walks in and makes somebody an offer they can't refuse. What's your background and how did you sort of come into this business?
Absolutely. I fell into a car sales role. It was never really an industry that I wanted any part of just because of the negative stereotypes that come along with it. But I was young and wanted to try something different, and it really ended up being a good fit for me. I enjoyed it. Started working my way through different management positions, and then all of a sudden, 10 years later, I realized that I just wasn't loving the car dealership atmosphere. Watching people suffer through the car buying process and everything like that made me think there had to be a better way. But what I realized is the car buying process as it sits is probably not going away anytime soon. So the best thing that I could offer was taking it off of the consumer's plate, handling it myself, and simplifying it for the consumer. And that's how we got to where we're at today.
I personally had a good A/B test for your services because when I moved to Portland, my wife's graduation from residency present was a new Subaru Outback, which we had secured online. I thought I was doing it the right way, and looking back, I think that we did an okay job of getting a good deal. But we negotiated everything in advance, signed the paperwork. We were literally just going to walk in and pick up the car, and we got there at 8:30 for our appointment, and 5 hours later, I finally staggered out of the dealership like I had been hit with a baseball bat after having been, taken from this desk to that desk, signed and pitched on this thing and that thing and that thing and the 17 different warranties. And I was like, I thought this was a done deal when I walked in. They were going to hand me the keys and walk away. So even when, and this is no news to anybody who's gone through this before, but even when you think you know what to look for, do you think it's going to be smooth? This process is just so darn painful. And I worked with Andrew to get our Honda Odyssey, which we got here in Portland as well. And it was much better, about an eighth of the total amount of time, and minimally painful as much as it could have been. Tell me, Andrew, about as you're helping your clients, do a search, where are you seeing value in the market right now? What kind of models, what kind of regions, or where are you getting the best deals for people?
The Northwest is not a great spot to get a good car deal. There's just no inventory, but it is funny. There's so many different pockets across the country where there's car deals, waiting to be had, but it changes pretty quickly based on the type of car that you're looking for. So, if you're looking for an electric car, for example, the cars in the Midwest that are just sitting there collecting dust because they just don't do as much electric car volume, it's a great spot to get a car like that. Whereas on the East and West Coast, that's you can still get great deals, but it's just a little bit harder, just because they're so much more popular. Um, so just every type of car, every region in the country just has a little bit different niche. And if we match you up to the right dealership and the right location, we can really save some good money and find a good opportunity.
So if I'm someone in the Northwest and I'm looking for a car that is in Chicago, where you're going to get the best deal, explain that process to me.
Sure. So, obviously we've got a lot to talk through. We need to make sure that the price makes sense after we take on an extra shipping charge. But if, that happens quite frequently, I would say probably 30 to 40% of my clients will have a car shipped across the country or a portion of the way across the country because the right car for the right deal, even after paying for a little bit of shipping, still was justifiable. And so, I partnered with a fantastic shipping company. They do everything the way you would dream. So if something goes wrong, they're going to take care of it. But, we get the paperwork done, we get payment in place, we get the car on a truck and have it dropped off in your driveway. It to the general consumer that hasn't done it before, it sounds scary and a little bit overwhelming to a lot of people, but we do this so frequently that it's just second nature. And we'll make sure that we walk you through it each step of the way so that you can feel comfortable taking that step. And, yeah, it really works out quite smoothly in the right situations. So
How much does shipping usually add to the purchase price?
you figure a safe average is about $1.25 a mile,
Okay.
So if it's 1,000 miles away, we're probably looking right around 1250, something of that nature. It's different if it's a car, if it's an SUV, if it's a truck, the bigger the vehicle, the more it's going to cost to ship, just makes logical sense. But you know, there are different routes that can be a little bit more expensive, but the $1.25 a mile is a very safe average just for an expectation.
I know the last time we talked, we were still sort of in the throes of COVID supply chain crunch. And I've
Uh,
seen some like quasi conspiracy theory types of ideas around dealers sitting on inventory, manufacturers sitting on inventory in order to keep prices high and things like that. But what have you observed in the last 3 to 6 months in terms of inventory, availability of new cars, of parts, and like dealer sort of quotas and things like that?
Yeah, we are much closer. We're the closest to what buying cars was like in 2019 or 2020 as we've been in years. So inventory is rebounded. I mean, dealerships are stockpiling tons of vehicles again. Um, there really isn't a part or chip shortage like there was, so that's not really hindering anything. Part of it has to do with interest rates. Interest rates climbed so high that people kind of slowed down on car purchases. Don't get me wrong, volume is still very good for most dealerships right now. But there's a few people that are choosing to not purchase now because of the interest rate situations. Um, yeah, there are, a few brands like Toyota and Lexus come to mind. They are intentionally keeping inventory low. It's been a very successful model for them. Toyota is the most profitable brand on the market currently, and they're selling the most vehicles out of anybody, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong there, but if they're not the most volume, they're very close to the top of it. And they still have people fighting over cars. There's wait lists and everything else, but for the other brands, it's all pretty much back to normal. Show up, you can probably find a car similar to what you're looking for, um, pretty easily, and away you go. So.
Tell me about the buy versus lease question, and how do you have clients that you help secure a lease, for example, and what's the cost differential you're seeing right now in that question?
So leasing is one thing that still hasn't fully recovered. Residual values are still really low, and that coupled with interest rates, payments are very, very high by comparison to what they should be, except for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are leasing extraordinarily well, partially just because um, the market's getting flooded with them. Interest in electric vehicles has kind of died down a little bit over the last 6 months to a year. And so with that and availability, it's just driving the lease payments down just to keep those moving. Um, but I mean, I get people that want to lease that definitely should be buying, and I get people that are buying that should definitely be leasing. There isn't a right or wrong. It's let the math do the speaking, and then there's just certain vehicles. I don't want to name names, but there are certain vehicles that are just smarter to lease because of the depreciation or the lack of reliability that they might have. So even if the lease payments aren't great, you're probably still going to come out better than what it would be on a purchase. Um, the old rule of thumb when leasing was if you could get your payments right around 1% of MSRP, that was a really good lease deal. Um, that's really hard to do on most, internal combustion engine vehicles. Plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles are getting a bunch of extra incentives. So therefore, it'll help drive down the lease payments. I've got a client that's actually 2 days ago signed his paperwork on his lease, $299 a month on a middle of the road EV, and he's absolutely loving it, but to get a $300 a month payment on anything right now is almost unheard of. So
Interesting. Talk a little bit about sort of the different market segments that you serve, and if somebody wants a Toyota Camry versus somebody wants a luxury vehicle, how does your process vary, and how does the sort of conversation that you have with the dealers differ?
Oh, I mean, the conversations with clients, whether you're looking for a $20,000 car or a $250,000 car, really isn't any different because all the same things apply and it needs to be handled, for the person buying a $20,000 car, it's equally as important that it goes well and smoothly as it is for the person that's buying a $250,000 car. But the interactions at dealerships are substantially different. A Toyota dealership just handles things very differently than, what a Porsche, a Ferrari, Bentley, those dealerships just are different. And so I tend to have to be a lot more aggressive and a lot more on point with the high-end luxury brands than like Toyota, but it just comes with the nature and you tweak it how you have to. So
Are there certain models where somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I need you to get me one of these," and you're like, "Yes, we're gonna crush it. I know exactly. Like this is one of the best deals going right now."
actually pretty much anything BMW. I mean, it's not necessarily um, the best payments that you can get into, but if you want a BMW, whether it's an electric BMW or an X5 or X7 or 5 Series, whatever, BMW is just a fun car to work on right now. Not every dealership will agree with my stance, but the ones that do will be happy to hear from me and excited to put a car deal together. So that's easily one of my favorite brands to work on at this exact moment.
Do you ever do classic cars or collector type of vehicles?
Yes, it's been a while, but we've done a few, late 60s Mustangs and stuff like that. Did a 68 Corvette, that's actually one of my favorite cars. I absolutely love that. And when we've done some like exotics, Ford makes the GT, not a Mustang, but the supercar. We got to do one of those. That was the most expensive car we've ever worked on. It was in the 700 range
Cool.
for a total price. So that was fun. But
That's the Gone in 60 Seconds car.
no, 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 that you're talking about, I believe that was a 68 Mustang Shelby GT and the
Okay.
Gone in 60 Seconds. The Ford GT is basically like a track car. It's a race car, basically.
Okay.
And they make virtually none of them. And so even though they don't cost that much brand new because they're so rare, people will pay. I've seen them go for as high as $1 million. So
Got it.
but
Tell me about the like the high-end electric with like Tesla, Rivian, Polestar, some of their friends. Like what kind of flexibility do you have there? I think probably a couple of those are direct to consumer.
They are. And so there's very limited, if anything, I can really do to help on those specific models. If you're going to buy a new Tesla or Rivian, Lucid, whatever, it's just a matter of going on their platform, buying the car and calling it a day. There's just not a lot to be done there. But if you're looking at a used version of those, that I can definitely help with. But I mean, I've had people call me that are like, hey, I want to get a new Tesla. What do you know? Can you answer some questions around some of the products and, the different features you can get? And absolutely, I probably have a conversation or two each day with somebody that isn't going to become a client, but I was happy to have a conversation with them just to talk them through stuff that's on their mind. And, maybe I'll see them again down the road someday. So.
If somebody wants to engage you, can you describe how the process works as far as like consulting and then how long things take and what they can expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything begins with a discovery conversation. It's super important that we're both completely on the same page. I want to understand what you're trying to accomplish, the things that are important to you. And once we are both, all on the same page, I can then begin the search, negotiating, and getting you up to speed with the opportunities that are presenting themselves that I feel like are a great fit and a great deal. On occasion, I will present a deal that's not so great, but it's the only car that matches what you're looking for. So let's at least have a conversation about it and we'll keep going. But that's the big thing. Like, as I present options, it doesn't mean you have to buy one. Let's talk about it. If it feels like a good fit and you're excited about it, we'll move forward and take the next steps to make all the arrangements, simplify the process of getting it, work through the paperwork, the delivery. If you're going to a dealership, making sure that they're fully prepared when you get there and, documents are ready. So you just sign your name and drive your car home for the most part. If you don't like the opportunities that we're putting on the table, go back to work until we get it right. Sometimes that takes several months. Sometimes it just takes, a couple weeks. But we'll always work as diligently as possible to make sure we find you the right opportunity and the right fit. Timeline is really hard. During the pandemic, we were probably getting into the 6 months to a year range for a lot of people before they would get their car. Things are probably on average about 30 to 60 days right now. But I have had a couple clients lately that called up, became a client, and got a car within 3 or 4 days. So things are getting easier. I would love to have my, turn time in the vicinity of 2 weeks, 3 weeks max. I think we're very close to that with the way the car industry is moving and everything like that. But not quite there yet, but we're getting very close. So, yeah.
And for our listeners who want to reach out, what's the best place to find you?
Reach out to me at gocarconcierge.com. There's a form there. If you find me on Google, there's a link to just book a calendar time to meet up with me. And yeah.
Andrew, thank you as always for your time and expertise. This has been enlightening, and thanks for doing great work for my clients too.
Absolutely. No, happy to do it.
If you liked what you heard this week, head on over to apmsuccess.com, where you can find more content and free resources to help you build a successful career in anesthesia and pain management. If you wanted to leave a review in iTunes, I'd also really appreciate it. Thanks for using some of your valuable time to join me today on APM Success.